Today we're going to apply our Aqua-Thane M35, which is our matte product, and we're also going to do the Aqua-Thane G40, which is the gloss formula. They're both water-based polyurethane, and they have superior stain, chemical, and abrasion resistance. The Aqua-Thane M35 is a 4-to-1 product, so you want to make sure that you actually measure this stuff. Don't just pour it in and hope that you get it right. So we're going to use 8 ounces of part A. And we're going to use 2 ounces of part B. We're going to just mix them thoroughly for a few minutes, just with a paint stick. You don't want to use any kind of electric mixer. Make sure you scrape the sides always, and you have a flat stick and you're scraping the bottom of the container also. All right, that should be ready to go. We're going to apply the M35 using our applicator pad. Good habit to get into when using the applicator pads or even rollers is to vacuum them in case there's any loose fuzz on them. You want to get all that fuzz off so it's not in your finished product. So we're just going to take vacuum cleaner, run the vacuum cleaner over it. That way we can be assured there's no fuzz coming off this getting in the finish. Give it a quick stir. These applicator pads hold a lot of material. Once you dip it in once, it's probably going to be almost enough to cover this whole top. I like to take long strokes and go right across the counter in one easy stroke. That way you're going to eliminate a lot of lines. I'll go back over that one more time. When applying the seal, you want to put on thin, even coats. You don't want to have puddles. If you do, go back and wipe it up. And you're going to see this stuff really levels off nice. That's pretty much all you have to do. I'll do the edge also. When you're getting into some of the detailed edges, you might want to use either a roller here, or you could use a brush also. A foam brush will work fine. You're going to notice once the Aqua-Thane M35 is applied, we have a little bit of darkening to the countertop. This will totally go away once the countertop is dry. This should be recoated in about 4 to 8 hours. We'll put a second coat on. It's approximately 4 hours since we applied our first coat of Aqua-Thane M35. And I like to feel the surface, and I see there's no tackiness at all to it, so that's telling me we are ready for our second coat. If it were to be tacky at all, we would want to wait. Keep in mind that the M35 has a window of 4 to 8 hours. Anything after 8 hours, we're going to want to lightly sand it with some 220 sandpaper before we apply the second coat. you're gonna see that the second coat goes way farther than the first coat. I like just taking one smooth stroke right through. Just light pressure, and because that first coat is on there, this really just glides across really nice. Now I'm not using any pressure at all, I'm just letting the pad glide across the surface. When applying the sealer on top of a white countertop, it's really hard to see because the sealer is white, the countertop is white, so it makes it a little more difficult. If we had a gray or any other color countertop under here, you would see it very easily because the sealer does go on with a white cast to it. You want to make sure when you are doing white that after you think you have it on, good, get down at a different angle and look at it, and I could see this looks like glass on top of the surface, so I know I have a nice coat. I'll do the edge. This is a little messy, so if you keep your pan underneath here, it'll catch any drips so you don't make a mess. It's now been 24 hours since we applied our Aqua-Thane M35, and I'm going to show you how the water should bead off. As long as the water is beading up and not going into the concrete and darkening the concrete, you can be assured you have a nice seal. If the concrete starts to darken, you're going to want to probably put a third coat on, and sometimes even a fourth coat, depending on the concrete itself. The porosity of the concrete makes a huge difference in applying any type of sealer. I'm going to mix up the Aqua-Thane G40 gloss. It comes in 2 containers. This particular mix is a 2-to-1 mix. It's going to be 2 parts A and 1 part B. We're just going to do this small piece here, so I'm only going to mix up 4 ounces and 2 ounces. You want to make sure you always use a measuring cup. You don't want to be guessing at this. All right, so I have 4 ounces of the A. And to make it simple, I'll just add 2 ounces of the part B. The Aqua-Thane G40 and the Aqua-Thane M35, they're both mixed the same way. You want to make sure you mix them thoroughly, square end on the stick. That way I'm getting the bottom of the container, and make sure you always scrape the sides well. You'll see it's a white color. You can be assured when it dries it does turn clear. The G40 is our gloss, and it does have a slight darkening effect on whatever you're sealing. So keep that in mind when you are sealing. You should always do a test first to make sure you like what your final result is going to be. And I'm going to use our applicator pad to apply this. I really like these applicator pads because they do a really nice job. The applicator pad does soak up a lot of material. Get a little more in the pad. Okay, we should be good now. You want a nice even coat. You see when you're brushing it on, you can tell where it is obviously because it darkens the base. Just nice light pressure, and that's pretty much it for applying it. The recoat time on the G40 is 6 to 12 hours. If you do miss that window of 6 to 12 hours, you're going to want to lightly sand this with a 220 paper before you put your second coat on. This piece of concrete was sealed 24 hours ago, one coat only. So I'm going to show you a test so you know if you have to put more. We usually recommend a minimum of 2 coats, but here's how you'll test. Simply pour some water on it, and you're going to see that the water is going to start to darken the concrete in the areas where the sealer didn't take as well. That's because this concrete has a rough surface and it will have to be sealed again.